Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the People Concerned. On behalf of our agency and our volunteers and our staff, it's my pleasure to welcome you here this morning. I'm joined with, obviously, Mayor Bass, who's our star attraction this morning. Under her leadership, the launch of the Inside Safe initiative. We are joined also by colleagues from St. Joseph Center, PATH, LA Family Housing, HOPIX, and LASA, whose teams over the next days and weeks will be doing encampment work across the city. And we are so excited to be part of this initiative, which is really at the essence and the heart of what all of us are doing, which is to move people indoors and to create a pathway to permanent housing so that all Angelenos are housed, healthy, and safe. The thing that's exciting for us, and we are privileged to be part of this initiative, is that it brings together, I think, three critical components in this work. First, a sense of urgency, which Mayor Bass, on her very first day in office, declared a state of emergency, as she promised during the campaign. And we feel that urgency in the city of Los Angeles. Those of us on the front lines have felt that urgency for a very long time, and certainly the people that we serve feel that sense of urgency. The second is political will. We need to get it done. And so the alignment of all the city departments, the collaboration and partnership with our county partners and all levels of government to align towards the mission of moving people indoors and getting them permanently housed. And finally, adequate resources. So really harnessing the power of hotels and motels and interim housing to move people indoors as quickly as possible, and then connecting them to permanent housing resources. So it is our privilege to be part of this initiative. It is especially my privilege to have Mayor Bass here with us, and I'd like to introduce our great mayor, Karen Bass.
Good morning, everyone. I am very excited to be here, and I want to thank you, John Macery, for hosting us and for the life-saving work that you and your team do every day. I will make a correction, though. You called me the star. The true stars are all of the people here who do this work day in and day out, who save lives, who know how to do this work. But I think that more and more the city needs to understand what you do, how you do it, and what we need to do is to have all of this get to the scale at which we can deal with the problem. I want to thank Felicia Adams-Kellum for standing here with me this morning and for your commitment to getting people off the streets and your commitment to developing Inside Safe. And I want to thank Veronica Morrison, who stands here with me today to share her story. My mission is to move Los Angeles forward with an urgent and strategic approach to addressing the homelessness crisis, and today we take a great step forward. My Inside Safe executive directive and initiative, which I will sign into effect today, represents a citywide, proactive, housing-led strategy to bring people inside from tents and encampments for good and to prevent encampments from returning. People should not be left to live and die on the streets because the city isn't giving them some place to go. Today, we are giving people safe places to move inside with ongoing support so that they can stay inside and safe for good. Inside Safe approach is a citywide and proactive housing-led strategy that will assess street homelessness across Los Angeles and then proactively engage with people living in tents and encampments based on which locations are most chronic and where people are suffering the most. We're in the process right now, just beginning, of identifying encampments, and as we do that work in outreach, we'll be gathering the information as to how many individuals are actually living in a given space. We do not know the numbers right now, but we will learn the numbers as we identify the encampments and identify how many people are in a given encampment or tent. Inside Safe is housing-based. People will be offered immediately quality housing and a commitment of services and permanent housing so they can stay inside safe for good. The vast majority of people living on the streets say yes to real offers of housing and support. It's time for a unified strategic and citywide approach to homelessness, and today's Inside Safe executive directive is integrated into my emergency declaration on homelessness, activation of the city's Emergency Operations Center, and issuing my executive directive to dramatically accelerate and lower the costs of affordable and temporary housing. A unified approach requires partnership, which is why I'm so encouraged by the recent votes from the City Council and the County Board of Supervisors in alignment with our strategy. The county, as I've talked to each and every supervisor, is committed to making sure that the services are there. And last night, I attended the inauguration of the new mayor of Long Beach, Rex Richardson, who said in his inaugural address that today he will declare a state of emergency in the county's second largest city. We're getting calls now from other cities about our approach, what we're doing. With more than 40,000 Angelenos unhoused and 5 of them dying every day, this is truly life-saving work. And once again, I just want to acknowledge the people who do this life-saving work day in and day out. Thank you so much. And now I want to introduce Felicia Adams Kellum, the Executive Director, CEO of St. Joseph Center, and the person who took the lead on developing Inside Safe.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Mayor Bass. I appreciate your leadership. St. Joseph Center has been serving low-income and homeless individuals for 45 years. I've been doing this work for about 20. And often, people ask me, what is it going to take to end homelessness? And I always answer in 2 ways: leadership and collaboration between the city and county. I want to thank you again for your leadership, for your bold leadership. It's not easy to start day one and call an emergency, call it like it is, and really speak to the devastation that we see as nonprofit providers every day. The collaboration, we all know, is critically important to garner the resources, the political will, as John said, to get this done the right way. To not only bring people indoors momentarily, but to bring them in safely for the rest of their lives. And it is an honor to be a part of this work and to really see what it takes when we all come together to do good. Your emergency order called out a level of human trauma that we see on the streets and that we lean into every day from a place of empathy and understanding. It also addressed the chronic, devastating issues that our clients face, and it lifts up and tackles some of the barriers that keep outreach workers and case managers from housing individuals swiftly. The Inside Safe directive specifically calls out what it will take to bring the thousands of people who live unsheltered indoors. It starts with outreach, engagement, and assessment in a targeted area, getting to know who's there, trying to understand their needs, and area by area, bringing people inside. It involves trust. We're getting people to think differently about their lives and what they're capable of, and service providers are at the front line of doing that. Your directive also lifts up best practice, and I appreciate that. It acknowledges that central to all that we do in helping someone who's unhoused is offering housing. And I thank you for what you've done, Mayor Bass, and what we will do together to garner the resources that it will take to bring people indoors. Your inaugural speech called us all to lock arms. Mm-hmm. And St. Joseph Center is ready to lock arms with you, the city family, our county partners, all of the nonprofit agencies that do this work every day. We're ready, and we appreciate this moment with you. Thank you. And yes, it's an honor for me to introduce Veronica Morrison, and you're going to hear a wonderful person speak to her experience in this work, and it's an honor to have her as well. Thank you, Veronica.
Good morning, everyone. So as everyone knows, my name is Veronica Morrison. I'm here to not only tell you that I believe these types of models work. I'm living proof of that. I came to St. Joseph Center with only lived experience, and I've been on the front line, outreach worker, peer specialist, again, coming in, working with other people just like me, people that have experienced, people that are here wanting to make a difference. And we work together, as Dr. Adams says, locking arms, building trust, working on the ground, and really, really outreaching and reaching those that are most vulnerable. They're at their most vulnerable times. They don't know how to trust. They don't know how to just allow someone to help them, because whatever it is that they're going through, because everybody's story is different. But just because they're vulnerable, just because they're outside or whatever their situation is, it doesn't mean that they don't need a chance. Everybody deserves a chance, because you might have fallen on hard times and had nowhere to turn. That's where people like us, and as we grow and we learn and we become more people together, we can continue that mission. And just as Mayor Bass's Inside Safe initiative continues to further that, continues to allow us to bring folks indoors and work and build people like myself, build people like all of these other people that are working together and make that journey possible. We all become pieces of tape on the measuring stick. And from there, that's how you know that these things work, because we start to reach further and further as we put more pieces of tape on that measuring stick. So I just thank you all today for listening to me and hearing my story and understanding and me being a person that's living proof, again, that these initiatives work. We're working, we're building trust, and we're making a difference every single day. I believe in this mission. I'm ready to continue working in this mission. Again, starting out as a peer, now I'm a program manager. So even now on another level, I'm teaching other people to be more great, and I'm able to reach more people, because as an outreach worker, I probably only could have helped maybe 20 people, right? But now as a program manager, I can teach a staff of 10 people to reach 20 people each. You understand what I'm saying? So we start talking about numbers, right? We're here to help, and I'm only one person. Dr. Adams is only one person. Mayor Bass is only one person. But when we're doing it together, we're all the people. We can reach so many more people. So I thank you guys again. I thank you, Mayor Bass. I thank you, Dr. Adams. I thank you to all my fellow outreach and frontline workers that's here doing the mission, because without you, we wouldn't be able to make these things possible. Thank you.
We'll take some questions now, and before I call on or Zach is going to do that. Oh, I see. Excuse me. I'm supposed to sign the executive directive right now. You want to come up here, Zach? Am I supposed to do something different? Okay. He tells me what to do. All right. It is signed. And let me just acknowledge a couple of other people. Sarah Drousseau, I don't know where Sarah is. I think she's back there. Sarah is a vital member of the mayoral transition team and was absolutely instrumental in developing all of the policies that we've put forward in the last week. And Mercedes Marquez? Oh, there she is. She is our Chief of Homelessness and Housing Solutions. Yes. Who raised their hand? Oh, Josh.
Mayor Bass, you just said bring them in for good, and on
Yes.
numerous occasions when I've spoken, you said one of the biggest issues is that temporary housing
Yes.
often runs out.
Right.
I know that your emergency order cuts through the red tape, but you can never really build enough permanent housing right now that you will need. So what is your administration doing specifically in terms of permanent housing? when you said bring them in for good.
Sure. And so really it is all about a continuum, and the declaring the state of emergency and then the executive directive that we did to expedite building, in the best of circumstances, that's still going to take months, which is why we're doing this program to get people off the streets, to stop the suffering today. And what our plan is for people to be in the temporary housing for a while, at the same time getting building done. There are also ways that we can move people from the temporary into permanent. And Valicia, you might want to address some of that too, because I know you have identified both.
Absolutely.
And is a while more than a year?
No.
No, the mayor has been very clear that we need to move people swiftly. One of the things, and some of the masterminds are right here in front of me, Chris Freed, really talking about how we get to scale. It's about master leasing. It's something that John Masseri and the people concerned have been at the forefront. It's about shared housing. It's about using a number of options. I think for too long, we've just said it's one option, it's one way, it's permanent supportive housing only. We know that can be expensive. We know, given the crisis and emergency, we need to move much more swiftly than that. And so we are looking into all the various options. And one of the things that I hope we'll do soon is actually a housing match retreat, where we're going to bring the city and county officials together with LAHSA, bring all those resources that we know are out there that may have been in various pockets. And now with your order, we're able to streamline, get together and say, we're all on the same page. County's on the same page with the city. We've got the resources. We've all felt a little frustrated that I got to run to get this pocket of resource. I got to go over there and get that one. And now all in the same room, moving in the same direction. And that's how you're going to see this open up in a way that you've never seen before. We've talked many times, but I think you're going to see a throughput that's unprecedented.
Chief?
Good morning. The mayor's initiative immediately moves us to collaboration and coordination. So across the city, not only government agencies, but social service providers, individuals with lived experience, community organizations, the private sector, so that we can, in an ordered way, do exactly the types of things that Valicia Adams is discussing. So bringing it all together. The mayor also has established a cabinet within the government that also integrates with her order last week about really kind of squashing as much of the discretion out of the permitting process as possible so that we get through it. All of those things together, plus work in the emergency declaration, we are all meeting within the EOC. It will be organized this way across sectors, and ultimately an action plan that we will now come forward to the mayor by March, taking into account all of the different strategies, but also the funding that will be required, and matching now with Measure ULA what it is that we will now be able to leverage from those dollars going forward.
And Mayor Bass, I know that you went to an encampment yesterday. Can you just share anything?
I did not.
Oh, after at the Board of Supervisors.
I did not. But I will be going. And what I actually want to do is I actually want to participate in your work, not for a photo op, so I can understand how the work is done.
Mayor Bass. The two things I wonder about this is there is an encampment resolution going on right now. It's in Hollywood. What in your mind is like the cadence of this as your team is figuring out the action plan by March? How many of these do you expect? Is it one a week? How do you expect to do this? And where do you expect to find those beds that are required to make those offers to people to make them to kind of open the doors?
You should come on up. Well, first of all, the service providers have identified the beds. Yeah. And so we know that there are specific motels where people can go to. In the best of all worlds, what I would like to see is us to be able to do this citywide. But we're not at that capacity just now. It's going to take us a minute to ramp up. I think this is day 9. No, day 10 of being mayor. Chief?
So yes, as the mayor says, we are working with the social service providers to identify in the way that we have the list of critical encampments. So we're looking at all that. As you know, they go out and do their pre-launch work. We're working with folks like Chet Ramirez, our deputy mayor for homelessness, to coordinate across the city. We're going forward. We already know where, as we're planning forward, where the motel rooms might be available. But as we're doing that, the difference here is is that we're not just doing that, right? We're not just going encampment by encampment. Beautiful work that it is, and necessary work that it is. So we honor that. The point is that every time that we work on an encampment, there are gaps. You all know it, right? There are gaps. We don't have enough of a lot of different things depending on what happens. Here we are studying those gaps, and we're coordinating already across. So the issue of master leasing is big. The issue of will we acquire an entire building rather than just doing master leasing. How are we moving forward all of the different projects that are already in the pipeline to figure out what is it that we can do? I looked at a list of 24 yesterday. What is it that we can do to push them forward? It may be sometimes a bit of regulatory relief. It may be that they have a funding gap, but we're taking a look at every single thing we can do and bringing it together in an integrated way so that we have, as the mayor said, a unified, citywide, right, strategy to prioritize, to then leverage all of the different resources we need for interim housing, and eventually move out of the night-by-night interim housing into the longer-term housing strategies that we will need to house people long-term in interim housing as we move them into permanent supportive housing or other housing where they need some support, but it's not permanent support.
So encampments are on that list that you just mentioned, just really quickly.
The list is actually now evolving. So it would be unfair in 9 days to tell you that we have a full list. That's just not realistic.
Follow up with you on that, then. Liz, and then
what's your name, Ms. Ma'am?
My name is Mercedes Marquez. I'm the mayor's housing chief.
Hi. So, Mayor Bass. So when you describe, or not you, but when the company described this as a fundamentally changed approach to encampments in LA, I think some people may be looking for things like the lack of policing, the lack of coercion in that process, so that people can decide on the merits of the offers being made to them of housing. Will we be seeing that kind of change? That fundamental change?
Well, the fundamental change that you're going to see, I mean, in a way, we are building on the lessons learned during the pandemic, right?
About the policing?
Well, the role of the police is if they are needed, but be clear that this is a housing-based strategy. This is not a punitive strategy. This is not about cleaning up and clearing out. Of course, that will happen in the context of it, but this is about outreach to people and getting them housed. That is what the fundamental strategy is. And to do it citywide, we're also doing it in conjunction with the council members as well. To the extent that we can be unified with them as to what they see are the areas where the suffering is the most, then that's where we should go. Then we join in partnership with the council member and with the supervisor of that area to ensure that the services are there.
Frank in the back.
Yeah, along those lines, Mayor Bass, how does this interact with 4118? In other words, that's an ongoing process. Council people
We're not using 4118 for this, and
but obviously, the council continues to use 4118.
right. Well, actually, do they? I mean, there might be a council person that wants to use it in their area, but the approach we are using is not 4118. This is about getting people housed, getting services, and doing outreach, and it's going to take a while. You might need to talk to a person more than once, but we are focused on getting them housed and services, not on law enforcement.
Last question right here in the blue.
Hi. This sounds similar to Project Roomkey, and there were some issues with conditions in the hotels and people getting into housing quickly.
Well, and what I was saying is that it is building on the lessons learned from Project Roomkey, and I know that there were many lessons learned, and so we also know that the housing that took place in that time, depending on where it were, there were different requirements, different issues, and the quality is going to be very important because it's not our desire to move people from a tent into a slum. That's not what we're trying to do here.